Hello, my friends. It's day 21 of our 40-day reading challenge. We're in Mark 14 again, following yesterday's reading. It's the next, starting at verse 12 through verse 26, the next section. And it's stories like this that kind of make me wonder about what's not written. What don't we know about the arrangements for the room? I remember when I was a kid hearing someone, maybe it was a pastor, talking about how maybe Jesus had supernatural powers of prediction to know who was going to be walking down the road with a jar of water, and then those disciples having just sort of miraculous persuasive power when they met the owner of the room and said the master needs it. And I think it's more likely, while obviously Jesus has supernatural powers, I think it's more likely that Jesus just made arrangements with somebody, that he had talked to the owner of the house, and that he talked to the man who was carrying the water jar. You know, men didn't carry water jars, generally speaking, so he would have stood out. And the room was all furnished and ready to go for the meal, which is sort of an indication that some prior arrangements had been made. But why all the sort of cloak and dagger and mystery and subterfuge in finding the room? Like Jesus says when they get to the meal, he knows that one of them is going to betray him. In fact, if you read one of the other accounts, Jesus knows who it's going to be. But this meal, this supper, was so important, he didn't want to have it interrupted by his arrest. He knew it was coming, but it could wait a little while longer. He wanted to have this meal before anything else happened. So he made it hard to predict where he was going to be, to help ensure they wouldn't get interrupted during the meal. Because during that meal, he gives us what we now know as the Lord's Supper. We could spend hours now talking about that meal, and that would be time well spent. But suffice it to say that this meal now is a powerful way of bridging the reality of our lives with the reality of Christ's presence and his death and resurrection for us. It's a way for us to remain connected to him and him to us, even when it doesn't seem like he is physically present in the same way. And I imagine this meal, in the months and years to come as these disciples continue to carry out Jesus' mission, I imagine this meal was extremely significant to them and brought them back every time they celebrated to that upper room with Jesus on that last night before his crucifixion, just as it remains extremely significant to our worship even today. But giving us that meal wasn't the only thing that happened that night. So we have to read some more tomorrow. We'll read about another important lesson that Jesus teaches those disciples in that upper room on that night. Until tomorrow, God be with you.